A wave of humiliation washed over her within her own home. What should have been a joyous occasion, her grandfather's birthday party, a place intended for warm family connection, became a setting for mockery. "That's your gift?" Her adoptive sister scoffed, displaying a shimmering velvet box. The maids murmured amongst themselves. Her mother averted her gaze. Her father released a weary sigh. Then her billionaire boyfriend made his entrance. Blue Manor stood prominently over New York's Hudson Valley, its limestone walls illuminated by the October dusk, and its grand ballroom resembling a cathedral of wealth. The estate resonated with an air of influence during Franklin Bloom's 85th birthday celebration. Senators were present in bespoke tuxedos, media moguls were adorned in $20,000 gowns, CEOs possessed private islands, and dynasties were represented whose names adorned museums. The Bloom family, an elite group with a logistics empire spanning continents, entertained 200 guests, with their sapphire invitations verified by velvet-gloved staff. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbows across mahogany floors, caviar gleamed on silver trays, and a string quartet wove Vivaldi's notes through the air, rich with ambition and oud. The ballroom, framed by silk drapes and portraits of Bloom ancestors, served as a stage for legacy, each guest seeking Franklin's approval, his endorsement valued at billions. Outside, the autumn wind whispered through ancient oaks, but inside, a young woman's quiet strength was poised to alter the manor's history. Harper Bloom entered through a side entrance, her linen dress, hand-stitched by a Nebraska seamstress, flowing softly, her old ballet flat silent on polished marble. At 27, she possessed a striking beauty, her hazel eyes sharp as jade, her chestnut hair loosely tied with a cotton ribbon. Growing up in a small town, she held a part-time job at a diner, pursued studies in biology, and maintained a simple lifestyle, remaining unaware of her heritage until a confidential DNA examination at age 18 confirmed she was Franklin Bloom's biological granddaughter, a consequence of a 1997 hospital mix-up. The Blooms privately welcomed her back, but refrained from a public announcement, influenced by Celia, who had been raised as their daughter in place of Harper. Celia had betrayed the family, contaminating Harper's beverages with lemon-scented soap, inserting counterfeit Gucci in her closet, taking her boyfriend, all while presenting herself as the favored child. Harper did not retaliate. She approached Franklin, the only one who addressed her as my girl, his gray eyes radiating affection. Within her grasp, a velvet pouch contained a jade bracelet, purchased with all the money she had saved, a treasured gift for him. The assembled guests' gazes pierced Harper as she entered the ballroom, their murmurs keen as thorns. Celia Bloom, looking stunning in a Dior gown valued at $12,000, was positioned at the center, her jade bracelet, costing $90,000, displayed in a custom velvet box. She noticed Harper, whose expression held a hint of derision. "Oh wow, a bracelet. Quite a coincidence," she remarked, her voice easily audible throughout the room. "I'm giving Grandpa one as well, but, well, mine is somewhat more exceptional." The audience laughed, their gazes briefly shifting to Harper's simpler dress. Margaret Voss, a media heiress wearing a Chanel gown costing $25,000, moved closer to a senator. Did she actually bring inexpensive jewelry to an event like this? She questioned, eliciting amused sounds. Harper's fingers closed more firmly around the velvet pouch, her expression calm, yet the atmosphere was charged with disapproval. Helen's eyes briefly met hers, a momentary kindness, and the onlookers' frustration grew, their emotions tightening at the upper class's harshness. Celia displayed her bracelet initially, raising it so its diamonds glittered beneath the chandeliers. "This is for you, Grandpa, from your loving granddaughter," she stated, her voice smooth. Applause filled the room, with CEOs acknowledging and socialites lifting glasses. Attention then shifted to Harper, who stood apart, holding a small velvet pouch. A hedge fund titan shouted, trying to copy Celia? "That's just sad." The room erupted in laughter, guests glancing at each other, their diamonds sparkling. A senator's wife remarked, "That's what happens when you let some farm girl feign belonging." Harper's parents, Edward and Lillian Bloom, remained still, their expressions unreadable. Lillian remarked to a guest, indicating Harper's adopted status, with a dismissive tone, She's not used to large parties. The audience's fury rose, their hearts pounding, angered by this family's perceived betrayal. The elite's scorn intensified as Harper moved through the ballroom, their mockery a deliberate attack intended to wound her spirit. A group of Wall Street heirs in $10,000 tuxedos positioned themselves along the velvet-draped wall, their voices forming a venomous chorus. She was a mark against Bloom's reputation, one remarked, brushing a caviar crumb towards Harper's ballet flats. Back to the cornfields, darling, another exclaimed, displaying a gold-plated cigar case. Her dress looks like a tablecloth. The crowd's laughter echoed, guests glancing at each other, their diamonds sparkling. A shipping magnate declared, she's an insult to every legacy here. The criticisms felt like a guillotine, each word a sharp blow against Harper's composed stillness. Franklin's grip on his cane tightened, though no one noticed, as the audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing, feeling immense fury at this planned display of cruelty, their resentment burning, prepared to overwhelm the elite's pride. The derision escalated, a synchronized attack on Harper's appearance. A group of socialites and $15,000 gowns arranged themselves in a semicircle, their voices a poisonous blend. Did she get that dress at a thrift store? One whispered, throwing a silk napkin towards Harper's feet. Isolated and vulnerable, a woman endured jeers, her jeweled clutch waving. A maid, encouraged by the onlookers, openly laughed. She hadn't brought a companion, likely due to financial constraints, her voice carrying throughout the room. The laughter felt like a devastating blow, each comment intensifying Harper's quietness. Edward Bloom averted his gaze, his silence a burden heavier than any spoken criticism. Franklin's grip on his cane tightened, a detail lost amidst the throng, while the audience's anger intensified, their feelings sympathetic to Harper, fueled by this group's harsh criticism. Celia's disapproval became more pronounced, her words a deliberate attempt to humiliate Harper before the distinguished attendees. She's not simply misplaced. She's a source of shame, she stated, her $12,000 Dior gown gleaming as she indicated Harper's linen dress. Grandpa must be deeply embarrassed to see this outsider in his manner. A wave of laughter burst from her group, their pearls chiming, their gazes shifting to Harper's cotton ribbon. She's a beggar, not a Bloom, Celia remarked, her voice strong enough to quiet the four. The attendees applauded, their disdain a heavy pressure, their murmurs circulating. She doesn't belong. Harper's hazel eyes glowed with restrained intensity, yet her smile remained, a defense against the hurt. Franklin's jaw clenched, his silence growing intense, but the audience's anger surged, their hearts aching for Harper, furious at this adopted daughter's betrayal revealed in the room. Celia's supporters attacked with increased force, their scorn a public condemnation. Ethan Reed, Harper's former boyfriend, now Celia's partner, moved forward wearing a $5,000 Armani suit, his smile appearing insincere. "You still look cute, Harper. Like a little sister," he said, his voice laced with false kindness. "Why does it seem like you consistently hurt Celia? You understand she makes a significant effort to show you affection." A collective intake of breath rippled through the audience, attendees quietly discussing, "She appears to be envious." Celia wiped away contrived tears, saying, "I simply desire for us to have a sisterly bond." The room's amusement overshadowed Harper's quietness, their remarks feeling like an overwhelming force. Harper offered a gentle smile, her hazel eyes calm, but internally she felt broken, the disloyalty a pain only Franklin's affection could ease. The audience's anger surged, a powerful wave seeking truth to dispel the manufactured falsehood. The elite's disdain became palpable, their words a sharp and bitter chorus. Vanessa Klein, a fashion mogul wearing a $20,000 Valentino gown, moved forward from a velvet chair, her voice cutting through the ballroom. "She's an insult to the Bloom legacy," she stated, indicating Harper's linen dress. Franklin must be ashamed to see this imposter present. Her companions acknowledged this, one stating, "No wonder she's alone, her own family disowns her." A tech billionaire exclaimed, "She's a fraud, probably forged her invitation." The laughter intensified, each falsehood feeling like a painful blow aimed at Harper's heart. Harper's fingers touched her cotton ribbon, her eyes focused on Franklin, but the crowd's disapproval felt like an immense burden. The audience's outrage surged, their emotions fueled by Harper's fury at this global elite's harshness. The staff's involvement worsened the situation, their actions a new disappointment. A butler, dressed in a neat uniform, stopped close to Harper, his voice quiet but clear, saying, "Miss, the service entrance is over there," indicating the kitchen, with a slight smile that was reflected by those nearby. "We typically do not seat guests of your kind in the ballroom," he added, prompting laughter from the privileged group. The onlookers' agreement felt oppressive, their superiority a blatant humiliation. Harper straightened her cotton ribbon, her hazel eyes steady, but Franklin's jaw clenched, a storm gathering in his silence. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this blatant disrespect, their fury ablaze poised to destroy the manor's integrity. The manor staff's contempt became obvious, their actions a public humiliation arranged for the elite's entertainment. A head steward, his uniform pristine, approached Harper near the ballroom's grand staircase, his voice dripping with condescension. "Miss, this area is for invited guests only," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. He gestured at her ballet flats, noting her attire suggested she was in the wrong section, his smirk mirrored by nearby guests. "We don't typically allow such simplicity at Bloom events," he added, sparking laughter from the senators and moguls. The audience's affirmation felt like an overwhelming force, their pride a stark condemnation. Harper straightened her cotton ribbon, her hazel eyes steady, but Franklin's cane shook, his silence a brewing storm. The spectators' anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived injustice, their resentment burning against the manor's dignity. The attendees' harshness reached its height, their whispers a poisonous storm. The daughter of a media tycoon, her $30,000 tiara catching the light, leaned in and whispered, "She's a con artist," likely bribed her way into the manor. Her friends murmured in agreement, one stating her story is false, simply a scheme to take advantage of Franklin. A Wall Street banker exclaimed, "She's an imposter. The Blooms have been deceived." The laughter was loud, each rumor like a weapon against Harper's composure. Franklin's gaze sharpened, his cane shaking, yet Harper remained still, her velvet pouch a steady presence. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts with Harper, yearning for this public shaming to cease, their fury a powerful surge against the elite's falsehoods. The guests' harshness reached its height as they spread hurtful rumors, their voices a sharp and bitter storm resonating through the ballroom. A publishing heiress and a $35,000 tiara leaned forward, her voice prominent and cutting. "She's a fraud, probably manipulated her way into the Blooms," she stated, her companions nodding in agreement, their diamonds sparkling. "Her mother's likely a fabrication, simply a tale to deceive Franklin." One person exclaimed, shouting, "She's a con artist. Blue Manor has been tricked." The laughter intensified, each rumor feeling like a blow aimed at Harper's heart. Guests murmured falsehoods, their accusations spreading rapidly. "She's after the inheritance." Harper's fingers gripped the velvet pouch, her gaze fixed on Franklin, but the crowd's slander felt like an overwhelming burden. The crowd's anger was palpable, their emotions aligned with Harper, their outrage a surge against this damaging falsehood, yearning for the truth to expose the elite's deception. A change in atmosphere occurred as the gift presentation commenced, with the attendees assembling close to Franklin's carved mahogany throne. Celia advanced, her $90,000 bracelet sparkling, her expression carefully composed. "For you, Grandpa, a representation of our connection," she declared, her voice strong and distinct. The attendees applauded, their diamonds glittering, senators acknowledging the gesture. Franklin's gaze settled on Harper, his expression tender. She moved forward, her soft pouch appearing small yet significant with sincerity, and presented her jade bracelet. The onlookers exchanged knowing glances, anticipating a setback. Arthur Wren, a longtime companion of Franklin's, examined it, peering over his spectacles. His sudden intake of breath quieted the space. "Franklin, this is the most exceptional some jade I have ever encountered," he declared, his voice shaking. The audience's emotions changed, their displeasure giving way to interest, the display a point of light in a cold atmosphere. Masterly, a feng shui master present among the guests, moved forward, the sound of his silk robes soft. This piece was blessed by Master Yuan Min in Chiang Rai, he stated, his voice calm. A monk doesn't consecrate jade in 7 years. Only someone possessing significant karmic affinity could receive such a blessing. The room became still, flutes vibrated, and murmurs passed through the fragrant air. A tech mogul quietly commented, "It's likely a counterfeit." Arthur Wren countered, "Definitely not. This is Miss Jade, a grade so exceptional it's known only to discerning collectors in spiritual circles." Celia's smile faltered, her $90,000 bracelet appearing less vibrant. Harper remained composed, her hazel eyes serene, her gift a quiet revelation. The audience's hearts lifted, the unveiling a brilliant contrast, their pride growing for Harper's unwavering poise. The reality intensified, the crowd's murmurs becoming a wave of uncertainty. Harper was unaware that the bracelet she's purchased from a small antique store had been surreptitiously swapped by an unseen observer. Lucas Caldwell, heir to Caldwell Group, New York's largest private investment firm, had noticed her visit to his family's store. Without her knowledge, he substituted her modest jade with his grandfather's heirloom, which had been blessed by Master Yuan Min during a trip to Asia. He'd maintained this as a secret, awaiting this specific moment. The ballroom doors opened, and Lucas entered, his gray tuxedo sharply tailored, his presence commanding attention. The assembled guests turned, their expressions intense, as he proceeded directly to Harper, taking her hand, his gray eyes fixed on Franklin. "Sir, I'm Lucas, Harper's partner," he stated, his voice calm, "and today I have come to request your blessing, as I wish to marry her." A wave of emotion filled the room, their feelings intensified as Lucas's declaration altered the manor's history. A hush fell, Ethan Reed's wine glass splintering on the marble, Celia's face draining of color. Lucas pressed on, his voice sharp against the stillness. "She doesn't require designer labels. She doesn't require investment accounts. She possesses grace. And that's something no one present can purchase." The diamonds of the attendees appeared to lose their luster, their expressions rigid with surprise. Edward and Lillian Bloom remained still, their quietness implying guilt. Lucas led Harper to Franklin's side, his grip on her hand firm. The audience erupted in cheers, their anger shifting to awe as Harper's truth started to expose the falsehoods that had constrained her. Franklin's expression gentled towards Harper, his cane visibly shaking with restrained pride, as the room waited in anticipation of his statement. Lucas Caldwell's presence dominated the ballroom, his voice like a gavel silencing the fragrant atmosphere. "You dared to ridicule Harper Bloom, the sole individual deserving of this legacy," he declared, his gray eyes a tempest of contained anger. "Your resources, your positions, hold no weight against her honesty." He presented a leather folio, showing a series of broken connections. Vanessa Klein's fashion agreements, Ethan Reed's finance collaborations, Celia's charity board positions, all ended due to Caldwell Group's power. "Your reputations are removed from New York's highest circles," he stated, his eyes fixed on Celia. "You have forfeited more than prestige. You have lost your prospects." The audience's intakes of breath formed a chorus of disbelief, their organizations collapsing under his authority. Harper stood beside him, her linen dress radiant, her victory confirmed by Lucas's immense power. The audience erupted, their spirits lifted as his worldwide justice dismantled the elite's pride. Franklin rose, his cane striking the marble, the sound like a gavel falling. "Enough," he declared, his voice silencing the ballroom. "Harper is my only biological grandchild. Celia is the adopted one, and I regret ever allowing this deception to continue." Celia let out a scream, a harsh, desperate sound. Her Dior gown offered no protection from the reality of the situation. Edward and Lillian lowered their heads, their faces etched with shame. Franklin's gray eyes scanned the assembled guests. Celia had undermined this family regarding Harper, fabricated stories, used people to her advantage, and seized her rightful position. However, Harper had never retaliated. She had sought me out, motivated by love, not avarice. The guests reacted with audible shock, Vanessa Klein's gown seeming to droop, and Margaret Voss's tiara becoming slightly dislodged. The audience reacted strongly, their anger palpable as Franklin's announcement dismantled the elite's confidence. The consequences were swift, a judgment communicated without words. Celia retreated, her $90,000 bracelet drawing scorn from the crowd's murmurs, labeled as a thief in Dior. Edward and Lillian faced ostracism, their Bloomboard seats taken away, their social standing vanished. Ethan Reed was guided out, his Armani suit offering no protection, his financial agreements terminated. Vanessa Klein's fashion brand endured sanctions, her reputation severely damaged. The butler who had previously shown disdain was terminated, ending his career. The socialites who had participated in the disruptive behavior concealed their expressions, their power diminished. Harper remained steadfast alongside Lucas, her ballet flats grounded, her linen dress conveying a sense of understated elegance. The audience's anticipation escalated, their frustration evolving into elation, Harper's success demonstrating her poise. The downfall of the elite unfolded as a striking event, their pride broken under Lucas and Franklin's direction. Celia retreated, her Dior gown appearing inappropriate, her reputation becoming a warning for the attendees. Ethan Reed's financial empire collapsed, his disdain a visible humiliation, his companions guiding him out. Vanessa Klein's fashion brand encountered boycotts, her name a mark of social disapproval. The publishing heiress concealed her tiara, her false statements revealed as deceptions. Those who had shown disdain were let go, their careers abruptly concluded. Individuals who had discarded napkins were ostracized, their power diminished. Harper remained composed, her cotton ribbon a subtle adornment, her hazel eyes resolute. The audience's emotions surged, their resentment shifting to admiration. Harper's triumph and Lucas's fury, a spectacle that subdued the world's wealthiest within the manor's esteemed rooms. Harper's history remained a mystery, unknown to the attendees, not Celia, nor the elite. At 16, she independently studied biology, using her diner earnings to purchase textbooks. At 18, a DNA test dramatically altered her life, yet she focused on the possibility of finding family, rather than seeking financial gain. Deceptions from Celia, including tainted drinks and fabricated tales of stolen luxury goods, had caused her immense pain. However, Harper remained because of Franklin. Her affection for him served as a beacon during difficult times. Lucas observed her quietly, his own heart influenced by her strength, his inherited jade representing a pledge to safeguard her. Now, she stood in Bloom Manor, her cotton ribbon signifying her honesty, her silence a powerful force that exposed their deceptions. The celebration continued, the quartet resuming, but the guests' eyes remained fixed on Harper. A senator approached, his voice hushed with respect. "Miss Bloom, your presence is remarkable," he said, his earlier disdain now a regret. The media leaders stepped back, their sway diminished, their assistants working to preserve connections with the Blooms. The chief executives remained close, their organizations wavering under Harper's control. Harper moved towards the ballroom's terrace, her hazel eyes following Franklin's confident smile. She hesitated, her fingers lightly touching the cotton ribbon, her look unwavering as the affection she'd held. The crowd's admiration grew, their pulses quickening as Harper's subtle strength redefined the manor's history. A flurry of urgent requests filled the air, voices lowered in hushed tones. "Secure a meeting with Miss Bloom," one powerful individual exclaimed, his voice strained. "She's the inheritor now," someone murmured, her Chanel gown unable to mask the reality. The host remained nearby, his influence diminished, his prospects now dependent on Harper's decisions. Harper appeared on the terrace, accompanied by Lucas, with Franklin's arm around her. The assembled guests lowered their heads, the previous disdain now a distant memory. The autumn breeze propelled her as she exited the ballroom, leaving behind a procession of the world's wealthiest individuals vying for her attention, their bows signifying an unspoken acceptance of the woman they had previously scorned. She felt deeply humiliated, within her own home, by those adorned with borrowed diamonds and insincere smiles. However, when the truth emerged, an unstoppable force, they all realized one crucial point. The genuine air requires no glitter. Simply entering a room is enough to command its reverence. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were Harper? She experienced a severe public embarrassment directly during the most prestigious baseball tournament for the elite, where each swing featured a $1 million sponsor logo. Claire entered the field wearing a worn tee, holding a used wooden bat, and with her hair simply tied back. How did the staff get approval to use equipment? A wealthy player scoffed. She's here to collect foul balls, not participate. But moments later, Claire's first home run hushed the entire stadium and made her critics anxious. The Spring Invitational Women's Baseball Tournament at Rosebridge Park was a symbol of affluence. Its green field bordered by stands covered in corporate advertisements, its atmosphere filled with the aroma of new leather gloves and Chanel No. 5. This exclusive event, a venue for heiresses, female CEOs, and semi-pro athletes, emphasized prestige more than competition. Custom-engraved Louisville Sluggers shone, limited edition Nike cleats sparkled, and camera drones whirred for social media visibility. The dugouts, furnished with velvet benches, were designated for the privileged, their sapphire wristbands scanned by staff in tailored blazers. Beyond the field, a VIP pavilion stood, its glass walls reflecting the influence of those within. Claire Wren entered the field, her simple white t-shirt tucked into standard joggers, her canvas sneakers showing wear from years of use, her high ponytail moving with her. At 27, raised in a small Ohio town, she had developed her swing in local lots while working as a part-time coach, her talent natural but undeveloped until she encountered Julian Wren, the billionaire who had transformed professional baseball. She carried a used bat with a faded price tag, her only tool in a setting of immense wealth. The grandstand stairs felt sharp, a murmur suggesting an impending shift. Claire's presence disrupted the tournament's carefully constructed image. Her bat seemed out of place in this exclusive environment. A semi-pro player, Lauren Holt, rested against the dugout, her $3,000 Prada uniform catching the light. "This is a baseball tournament, not a public fitness class," she commented, her voice carrying enough to draw attention. A tech heiress, dressed in a $2,000 Under Armour kit, laughed quietly, elbowing her teammate. "Perhaps she is lost?" The kids' training camp was located out back. Laughter echoed from the grandstand, spectators attempting to hide smiles with manicured hands. Claire remained still, her hazel eyes focused, her bat resting on her shoulder. She had come to play for Julian, the man whose league she had quietly helped fund. The audience's displeasure arose, their hearts tightening at the seemingly callous actions of these gatekeepers, their contempt a sharp contrast to Claire's quiet composure. The taunting grew more intense, a spiteful sound led by the tournament's most prominent figures. Whitney Crane, the event's current social icon and daughter of a sports media executive, stepped forward, her personalized Nike jersey gleaming, her blonde hair neatly styled and her expression scornful. At 25, having grown up in Manhattan's luxurious apartments, she was known for belittling those new to the scene. She looked at Claire's athletic pants and laughed. "That bat looks like it came from a second-hand store," she remarked, her voice cutting and cruel. The players roared, their laughter echoing off the grandstands. Whitney tossed her bob, her jasmine-scented perfume wafting, a scent Claire knew Julian disliked. Claire's fingers tightened on her bat, her face calm, but the audience's fury surged, their hearts pounding at this personal attack, Whitney's arrogance a spark in the frost. The scorn grew intense, a coordinated attack on Claire's presence. A tournament staffer, Margaret Voss, approached, her blazer perfectly pressed, her face showing years of upholding rules. At 52, raised in upstate New York, she took pride in keeping things in order. "Miss, the field is for registered players only," she stated, indicating the exit, her voice steady but not unkind. The crowd cheered, their designer cleats sparkling as they bid her farewell from the diamond. The CEO, dressed in athletic wear costing $4,000, commented, probably filming some fake TikTok badass girl video before going home. Laughter erupted, players bumped each other, and a teammate whispered, "She doesn't even look like an athlete." Another remarked that t-shirt's a disgrace and she dares step here. The comments felt harsh, each word contributing to Claire's silence. The audience's anger intensified, feeling sympathy for Claire and frustration at this group's cruel behavior. A palpable disdain emanated from the players as Claire took her position on the diamond, their taunts a deliberate and coordinated attempt to undermine her confidence. A group comprising experienced athletes and sporting $7,000 custom Nike uniforms assembled close to the dugout, their comments forming a sharp and critical sound. She diminishes this tournament's standing, one remarked, flinging a personalized glove towards Claire's well-worn sneakers. Return to the batting cages, please, another gestured, displaying a sapphire wristband, and added, her bat is inadequate. Do you imagine she acquired it at a yard sale? The grandstand's laughter boomed, staff members exchanging glances, their gold pins catching the light. A former collegiate star shouted, she's an insult to every swing taken here. The insults felt like a guillotine, each word a blade against Claire's calm composure. Julian's pavilion stood beyond the field, but the Diamond's disapproval felt like an overwhelming burden. The audience's anger grew, their hearts pounding furiously at this planned cruelty, their anger blazing, ready to engulf the elite's arrogance. Whitney Crane delivered another sharp verbal attack, aiming to undermine Claire's confidence in front of the elite. She moved to the pitcher's mound, her Nike jersey catching the light, and fixed a gaze on Claire. All right then, give it a try, she challenged, her voice strong enough to quiet the surrounding whispers. If you strike out 3 times, you'll kneel and declare, I don't deserve to step onto Rosebridge Park, in front of every camera present. The grandstands erupted in cheers, their disapproval feeling like an overwhelming wave. Claire responded with a smirk, her hazel eyes unwavering. What if you hit the first home run of the game? Whitney raised an eyebrow, her confidence unwavering. Then what? Claire's voice was soft but firm. Then you remove your jersey and walk off the field. Immediately. Whitney laughed, but the crowd's murmurs intensified. She's finished. The audience's anger erupted, their hearts aching for Claire, infuriated by this public humiliation revealed before the stadium. The players' disappointment became hurtful, their words a harsh chorus. A venture capitalist, dressed in a $5,000 Lululemon outfit, rested against the dugout, her voice sharp and critical. She's insignificant, likely here seeking sponsorship, she remarked, pointing at Claire's used bat. Look at those sneakers. Were they retrieved from a discard pile? The teammates chuckled, their sapphire wristbands catching the light. A semi-pro player exclaimed, she brings shame to those who allowed her to participate. The laughter felt overwhelming, their arrogance a stark display. Claire adjusted her ponytail, her hazel eyes steady, but the field's disapproval felt heavy. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived institutional betrayal, their fury threatening to undermine the tournament's integrity. Whitney Crane's disapproval became more pronounced, her words a deliberate attempt to undermine Claire before the tournament's elite. She expressed that Claire was not only unsuitable but also embarrassing, her Nike jersey catching the light as she pointed at Claire's joggers. Julian Wren would be deeply upset to witness this. Claire's group of supporters laughed, their personalized bats striking together, glancing at Claire's used bat. She's a handout, not a player, Whitney remarked, her voice strong enough to quiet any nearby comments. The players responded with encouragement, their disapproval a heavy presence, their whispers circulating, she's an imposter. Claire's hazel eyes held a quiet intensity, but her smile remained, a defense against the hurt. The pavilion shone beyond the grandstands, yet the field's rejection felt like a heavy burden. The audience's anger swelled, their spirits aching for Claire, upset at this socialite's deceit revealed before the stadium. The staff's involvement worsened the pain, their actions a further betrayal. Wearing a tailored blazer, field coordinator Emily Tate addressed a participant, her tone conveying a sense of superiority. The practice field is that way, she stated, gesturing towards a side gate, a slight smile visible on her face, reflected by the players nearby. We do not permit participants like yourself in the main tournament, she continued, prompting laughter from the onlookers. Emily, 28 years old and raised in Connecticut, valued her role in controlling access. The audience's affirmation felt like an overwhelming pressure, their attitude a very public display of judgment. Claire held her bat, her hazel eyes unwavering, but the atmosphere felt oppressive. The crowd's anger surged, their hearts racing in response to this blatant disrespect, their fury directed at Rosebridge's reputation. The field staff's disapproval became obvious, their actions resembling a deliberate humiliation intended to entertain the players. A senior official, Richard Tate, approached Claire close to the first baseline, his blazer immaculate, his voice laced with condescension. "Miss, this diamond is for credentialed athletes only," he stated, loud enough for the crowd to hear. He gestured at her t-shirt, indicating she might be in the wrong event, his smirk reflected by nearby staff. "We don't typically allow attire of this nature at the Spring Invitational," he added, prompting laughter from the players and spectators. The crowd's reaction felt overwhelming, and their demeanor felt dismissive. Claire held her bat, her hazel eyes steady, but the field's disapproval felt oppressive. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived injustice, their resentment directed at Rosebridge's reputation. The players' harshness was evident, their words a bitter torrent. A media influencer, wearing a $6,000 Nike outfit, moved closer, her voice sharp and critical. "She's a fraud, likely trying to sneak onto the cameras," she stated, her associates agreeing with nods, their gold earrings catching the light. "The bat is a prop, merely a tactic for disguise," another addition. Shouts erupted. "She's a con artist. The tournament's been duped." The laughter was deafening, each rumor a blow aimed at Claire's heart. Spectators whispered falsehoods, their accusations spreading rapidly. Rumors persisted. "She's after the prize money." Claire touched her ponytail, maintaining a steady gaze, but the crowd's slander felt like a heavy burden. The audience's outrage surged, their feelings aligned with Claire, their anger a powerful force against this damaging falsehood, eager for the truth to expose the elite's deceptions. The spectators' disdain intensified as they spread harmful rumors, their voices a sharp and bitter sound resonating through the grandstands. A sports agent, dressed in a $10,000 Tom Ford suit, moved closer, his voice forceful and pointed. "She's a fake, likely paid to get onto this field," he stated, his associates concurring, their cufflinks gleaming. "Her marriage is a fabrication, simply a tactic to enter the tournament," someone added, yelling, "She's a fraud. Julian has been deceived." The laughter intensified, each rumor felt like a painful blow to Claire's heart. Employees murmured falsehoods, their accusations spreading rapidly. "She's pursuing the sponsorships." Claire touched her bat, her expression unwavering, but the public's defamation felt like an immense burden. The audience's anger exploded, their hearts aligned with Claire, their fury a tidal wave against this malicious slander, desperately wanting the truth to dismantle the elite's lies. Claire remained silent, without a tear in her eyes, her hands holding her second-hand bat, a relic from her Ohio days, its grip worn from many swings. She stepped to the plate, her canvas sneakers soft on the dirt, her plain t-shirt a stark contrast to the field's opulence. A hush fell over the audience, thousands of eyes anticipating a mistake. Whitney Crane stepped onto the mound, her Nike jersey bright, her pitching honed by Team USA coaches. The first pitch, a sharp crack, zipped past the catcher's head, a line drive narrowly missing the infield. The second pitch, with a resounding wham, struck the edge of the stands, a foul ball that vibrated the bleachers. The third pitch, a powerful boom, cleared the main stadium fence, a white blur against the sky. The grandstand stood still, cameras focused, drones hovering. Whitney's mouth fell open, her hairstyle offering no protection. The audience's emotions changed, their frustration turning to excitement, Claire's understated resolve a glimmer in the cold air. The quiet of the crowd shattered, intakes of breath spreading through the scented atmosphere. A seasoned umpire, Arthur Cole, moved to the front, his worn hat pulled down, his eyes widened. At 65, a longtime figure in the sport, he indicated the fence. "That is the initial home run of the tournament," he announced, his voice shaking. A clean hit over the wall, something no one had accomplished in years. Players stood, gathering around the dugout, their sapphire wristbands catching the light. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Who is she? Where did she learn to hit like that? Why is she dressed like that? Whitney's Nike jersey seemed to lose some of its brightness, her confidence seeming less sure. The audience's sense of pride grew, their hearts pounding as Claire's swing altered the field's power dynamic. A change fell over the atmosphere as the VIP pavilion moved, the crowd separating like a wave. Julian Wren entered the field, his gray suit impeccably tailored yet subtly styled, his arrival a striking moment. At 38 years old, having grown up in Chicago, he was the creator of Rosebridge Park and held significant shares in the National Baseball League, fundamentally altering the sport. He moved past a speechless Whitney, placed his arm around Claire's waist, kissed her forehead, and offered a smile. "I told you," he stated, his voice unwavering. "One swing is all it takes." The grandstands fell silent, camera flashes illuminated the scene, and drones remained suspended above. Julian addressed Whitney, his gray eyes fixed on hers. "You have disrespected the primary sponsor of this tournament and my wife," he stated. "Effective immediately, you will not be included in any event organized by my group, and those who participated in today's discriminatory actions will be subject to the same consequence." A wave of emotion rippled through the audience, their anger shifting to admiration, as Julian's words exposed the falsehoods that had concealed Claire. The players halted, Whitney Crane's personalized bat falling from her grasp, striking the ground with a sound on the dirt. Julian spoke, his voice breaking the quiet. He emphasized that the tournament was founded on principles of fairness, and pointed out that Claire had provided funding for half of its endowment, yet someone had the audacity to criticize her. The players' cleats appeared to lose their vibrancy, and their faces were drawn with surprise. Emily Tate remained still, her position as a gatekeeper proving to be a demonstration of her failure. Julian indicated Claire with a firm hand. "She doesn't require your wristbands. She embodies the spirit of this game." The audience erupted in cheers, their anger shifting to admiration as Claire's revelation started to redefine the tournament's history. Arthur Cole acknowledged her with a respectful nod, his cap pulled low, as everyone waited for her reply. Claire moved forward, her worn t-shirt a subtle symbol of her strength, and clasped Julian's hand. "I didn't come here to demonstrate anything," she stated, her voice gentle yet firm. "I came to compete." She hesitated, her hazel eyes scanning the stands. "However, since you requested a swing, I delivered one." The stadium erupted, spectators standing, their applause a symphony of awe. Whitney Crane bowed her head, her Nike jersey no shield, and muttered, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Wren." Representatives from sports brands and media outlets approached, their endorsement offers extended with trembling hands. Claire smiled, squeezed Julian's hand, and said, "I just came to hit the ball." The audience roared, their hearts pounding as her grace crushed the elite's arrogance. The consequences were swift, a judgment rendered quietly. Whitney Crane was led off the field, her jersey removed amidst a barrage of camera flashes, her media empire now a stark warning. Emily Tate received a reassignment to administrative duties, effectively ending her career of controlling access. Lauren Holt, the semi-pro who had ridiculed Claire's bat, was prohibited from participating in future tournaments, and her sponsorships were terminated. The venture capitalist who had derided Claire's sneakers was disallowed from league events, her power eliminated. Those who had laughed faced disciplinary action, with reduced responsibilities. Individuals who had disseminated rumors concealed their wristbands, losing any semblance of authority. Claire stood next to Julian, her canvas sneakers firm, her used bat a symbol of her integrity. The audience's hearts pounded, their anger shifting to triumph, Claire's victory shining brightly and humbling the field's top players in Rosebridge's revered park. Julian Wren's presence dominated the room, his voice like a sharp command that stilled the atmosphere, decorated with banners. "You dared to challenge Claire Wren," he stated, his gray eyes radiating controlled anger. "Your wristbands, your titles, hold no weight against her truth." He then displayed a tablet showing a series of broken connections, Whitney Crane's media contracts, Emily Tate's event privileges, and players' sponsorship deals, all revoked by Rosebridge's board. Erased from baseball's future, he declared, his gaze fixed on Whitney. "You've lost more than games, you've lost your platforms." The crowd's gasps resonated as a symphony of shock, their empires crumbling under his command. Claire stood beside him, her faded t-shirt glowing, her triumph confirmed by Julian's unrelenting power. The audience roared, their hearts soaring as his global retribution suppressed the elite's arrogance. The downfall of the elite proved to be a striking event, their arrogance broken under Julian's command. Whitney Crane faltered from the mound, her Nike jersey appearing ironic, her reputation serving as a warning to the players. Emily Tate's control over access diminished, her disdain becoming a public embarrassment, with her assistants guiding her towards the service exit. Lauren Holt's endorsements disappeared, her mockery revealed as falsehoods. The sports agent who had spread rumors concealed his cufflinks, his contracts invalidated, the staff who had sneered were terminated, their careers concluded. The media influencer who had laughed faced rejection, her platform diminished. Claire stood tall, her sneakers a subtle symbol of triumph, her hazel eyes resolute. The grandstand's cameras flashed, documenting the elite's downfall, their empires collapsing due to Claire's swing. A wave of emotion swept through the audience, their frustration shifting to a sense of accomplishment, Claire's triumph and Julian's displeasure resonating across Rosebridge's esteemed park, impacting the world's wealthiest individuals. The tournament's established order collapsed under Julian's direction, revealing a deep-seated corruption within its foundation. He addressed the event director, his tone sharp and direct. "Your selection process is a sham," he declared, his gray eyes unwavering. "All regulations that caused my wife distress are null and void, effective immediately." He tapped his phone, and a series of notifications flooded the staff's devices. Agreements terminated, privileges withdrawn, entire teams dissolved. The venture capitalist's approvals were invalidated, her power a remnant of a bygone era. The semi-pro team was disqualified, her professional path halted. The coordinator who had laughed was escorted out, her blazer dark. Claire stood beside Julian, her used bat a silent reminder of her honesty, her victory a bright spot in the tournament's fading glow. The audience's emotions lifted, their frustration changing into celebration. Julian's fury a powerful surge that washed away Rosebridge's pride. The players' downfall became absolute as they addressed the cameras. Their earlier confidence vanished under Julian's direction. They approached the field's perimeter, their sapphire wristbands losing their luster, their voices unsteady. Lauren Holt turned towards the grandstands, her Prada uniform seeming inappropriate. "I was mistaken to criticize Mrs. Wren," she stated, her apology a public admission of fault, resulting in the termination of her endorsements. The media influencer followed, her Nike attire appearing worn, her online presence eliminated. "I regret propagating falsehoods," she whispered, her power diminished. The venture capitalist expressed her regret, her previous statements now meaningless. The employees who had previously mocked them were now last, their professional attire removed, their careers concluded. Claire stood next to Julian, her simple shirt a subtle emblem, her bat representing her authenticity. The crowd erupted, their spirits lifted as the apologies of the powerful resonated, their influence diminishing due to Claire's powerful hits and Julian's unwavering strength. Claire's history remained unknown, not to the players, not to Whitney, and not to the staff. At 18, she would practice swings in vacant lots while coaching children, her diner tips paying for her glove. At 22, she encountered Julian at a charity game, her natural talent captivating him amidst the spectacle. Their marriage, a personal commitment in an Ohio meadow, was founded on affection and mutual aspirations. Whitney's perfume, the staff's blazers, the players' kits, none equaled the significance of the bat Claire possessed. Now she stood on the field, her ponytail a testament to her truth, her silence a furnace that burned through their lies. The tournament paused, but the grandstand's eyes remained on Claire. A league official approached, his voice low with respect. "Mrs. Wren, your swing is legendary," he said. His earlier scorn was a regret. The players retreated, their influence null, their agents scrambling to salvage ties with Rosebridge. The sponsors hovered, their empires trembling in Claire's shadow. She proceeded toward the pavilion, her hazel eyes following Julian's confident smile. The banners lessened in brightness, the spring light disappearing, leaving behind a procession of the world's wealthiest individuals seeking her approval. There was a quiet acknowledgement of defeat for those who had previously scorned her. Claire was called onto the stage, her sneakers making little sound on the platform where she accepted the Sports Fairness Icon Award, its crystal sparkling under the lights. She held Julian's hand, her t-shirt a subtle expression of her integrity. The crowd erupted, their applause a powerful surge as she stepped down, her bat slung over her shoulder. The field grew quiet, the cameras motionless, the elite's empire's dust settling. Julian moved closer to her, his gray eyes gentle. "Ready to go home?" she affirmed, her hazel eyes following his smile. They exited the field, the spring light diminishing, leaving Rosebridge Park forever altered by a single swing. She endured a severe public shaming, occurring directly during the most prominent baseball competition for top players, where each swing featured a $1 million sponsor logo. However, when her bat connected with the ball and her husband's truth emerged onto the field, everyone understood one thing. The authentic champion doesn't require specialized equipment. She simply needs to swing, and the stadium will acknowledge her. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were Claire? Red wine stained her uniform. A mop was thrust into her hands, and laughter echoed as she was addressed as merely help and instructed to remain unseen. She was treated with disdain, as though her presence diminished the refined atmosphere of the elite, disregarded without recognition of her name, face, or prospects. However, what they were unaware of, what no one anticipated, was that the maid they ridiculed had quietly accumulated every secret, every deception, every scandal they attempted to conceal. Their empire crumbled unexpectedly. The estate exuded opulence. Marble floors extended seemingly without end, chandeliers shimmered with gold, and walls displayed paintings that spoke of inherited wealth. The Carlyles presided over it all, a family entrenched in politics and business, their names synonymous with influence. Vivian entered as their new housemaid, a woman in her 30s, her dark hair pulled back, her plain gray uniform unremarkable. She possessed beauty, with striking cheekbones and deep brown eyes, yet it went unnoticed. To them, she was a shadow, moving quietly through their world. Her employment began 6 months prior, and the experience was harsh from the outset. Victoria Carlyle, the lady of the house, moved about in silk robes, issuing commands as if Vivian were a machine. "Scrub the foyer again. Those tiles aren't gleaming," she would say even when they appeared spotless. Her daughter, Brooke, was even more difficult, with sharp heels and a sharper tongue, 25 years old and exhibiting a sense of entitlement. "Don't touch my bags. You'll smudge them," she would hiss, pushing past Vivian as if she were a piece of furniture. The guests were no better. Senators, CEOs, individuals with private jets, scarcely giving her a look as they requested new drinks or expressed dissatisfaction with the silverware's cleanliness. Vivian endured it all, lowering her head, speaking quietly, and keeping her hands still. This continued, day after day, in a cycle of fetching, cleaning, and bowing. Victoria once required her to remake a 5-course dinner arrangement because a napkin was slightly misaligned. Brooke yelled when Vivian inadvertently brushed against her purse. "I'm fortunate I don't dismiss you personally." The employees speculated she wouldn't remain. However, Vivian persevered, her composure unwavering, her silence a subtle strength unnoticed by many. One afternoon, Brooke abruptly took a tray of crystal glasses from Vivian's grasp. The fragile stems broke on the marble floor, seemingly intended to observe her reaction. "Oops, too heavy for you?" Brooke remarked, her heels tapping as she laughed, the shattering sound resonating throughout the foyer. Sharp fragments of glass sliced into Vivian's palms as she knelt to clean, blood mingling with the debris. But no apology emerged, only Victoria's harsh voice from the stairs. "You will pay for that clumsy fool." Vivian remained silent, her hands steady despite the pain, their harshness a whip striking across her lowered head. She polished their world while they walked over her, unnoticed unless they needed something or someone to mistreat. One evening, Victoria dumped a bucket of soapy water over Vivian's head in front of a group of elite guests relaxing in the parlor, the suds soaking her uniform and dripping onto the rug. "That's what you get for missing a spot," Victoria said, her silk robe swishing as the room erupted in laughter, a senator slapping his knee. "She's a drowned rat now." Brooke smirked, snapping a photo. "Perfect for the help scrapbook." Shivering and soaked, Vivian stood, wiping her face with a deliberate motion, ignoring their taunts as she endured them silently. Soon after, the party arrived. The Carlisle mansion shone that night, filled with the city's most prominent figures. Tuxedos, elegant gowns, and diamonds glittered like constellations. Vivian moved through the gathering, carrying a tray and pouring wine with practiced care. The atmosphere vibrated with business discussions and joyful sounds, the Carlisle family presiding over the event. As she refilled a glass, her elbow brushed against a woman, a prominent businesswoman named Diane Kessler. She was strikingly dressed, with blonde hair and a dress valued at $20,000. During the party, a plate of hors d'oeuvres was pushed into Vivian's chest by Diane. Immediately preceding the wine spill, the greasy appetizer stained her gray dress as the crowd murmured, "Carry it right or don't bother," Diane exclaimed, her blonde hair swaying as she turned to her companions. "She's a walking disaster. Look at her." Victoria advanced, her voice sharp. "Clean yourself up. You're a disgrace." Brooke laughed derisively. "She's the stain now." Vivian calmly removed crumbs, her silence a defense against their harsh amusement, feeling the room's attention focused on her. Red wine spread across the white silk, creating a noticeable mark. The atmosphere shifted, and then Diane spoke forcefully. "People like you don't belong in a place like this." Her voice resonated, silencing the surrounding noise. All eyes turned to her. An accident had occurred. Vivian stood there, tray steady, wine dripping to the floor, her face blank. Victoria approached quickly, her heels clicking sharply. "What happened? You've caused a scene in front of everyone," she exclaimed, her voice carrying throughout the room. Brooke observed with a slight smile, her arms crossed. "She's made a mess. Remove her." Diane gestured to her damaged dress. "I should take legal action against you for this." The onlookers responded with laughter, sharp intakes of breath, and whispers of "How did she get in here?" Following the wine spill, Richard threw a wad of cash at Vivian's face, the bills slapping her cheek as he shouted from across the room. "That's for the dress. Now get lost." The crowd cheered, a woman in pearls shouting, "Pay up, maid." While Brooke clapped, she declared, "She's worth less than that." Victoria sneered, urging, "Take it and crawl out. You've ruined enough." Vivian caught the money midair, her fingers steady, her brown eyes unblinking, the laughter of the onlookers feeling like a hammer pounding her down. She remained steadfast, simply tucking it into her apron and continuing to clean. Vivian did not react, only bending to address the spill. Her silence resonated more powerfully than their comments. The shame was intense. A senator laughed, remarking, "Guess they're hiring off the street now." A woman adorned with pearls whispered, "She's got no business here." Victoria seized Vivian's arm, pulling her towards the kitchen. "You're finished for tonight. Remain out of view," she hissed, pushing her through the door. Following the initial confrontation, Brooke stated, "Don't come back until you understand your place." A wave of mocking laughter trailed her, emanating from individuals who had never performed manual labor. As the party concluded, Victoria pressed a mop into Vivian's hands, her voice sharp as she directed her towards the spill. "Clean it up, you're inadequate. For once, do something correctly." "Guess," a CEO commented, "she's not even competent at that." Simultaneously, Brooke positioned the mop bucket nearer, soaking Vivian's legs. Diane gave a scornful smile. "Should have let her go a long time ago. Disgraceful." Vivian held the mop tightly, water collecting near her feet, her uniform stained with wine and grease, but she didn't react, simply beginning to clean. Their animosity, a burden she bore silently. Vivian remained in the dimness, drying her hands, her gaze unwavering, without tears or complaint. Afterward, as the party concluded and the mansion grew quiet, Vivian went to a small room located near the east wing. She secured the door, retrieved a burner phone from her apron pocket, and initiated a call. Her tone altered, becoming subdued, precise, and authoritative. "The moment is at hand. Transfer the assets by tomorrow. A map adorned the wall with a red thread connecting various entities. Carlyle Holdings, Novalink, offshore banks. She followed a path with her fingertip, her expression distant, analytical. This was no ordinary hiding place. It was a strategic command center. She wasn't merely Vivian, the insignificant one. She was something else altogether. The following morning, the Carlyles convened in the oak-paneled study. Victoria, Brooke, and patriarch Richard were present, all in crisp suits and with smug grins. Richard puffed a cigar. "Novalink is our golden ticket," he stated. $500 million is at stake, and they're begging for us. Victoria nodded in agreement. "We'll secure the deal today. Our most significant move yet." Brooke tossed her hair. "I'll be leading that boardroom shortly." Unbeknownst to them, Vivian was in the adjacent room, listening intently near the wall. They were unaware that Novalink wasn't a far-off acquisition. It belonged to her. Operating under a legal alias, she had constructed it from nothing. A Southeast Asian empire valued at billions, 10 times the Carlyle fortune. She controlled the game they believed they were participating in. Her narrative was more complex, more troubling. 20 years prior, her father, Charles Lancaster, worked as a journalist. He was persistent, investigating the Carlyles' illicit dealings. Corruption, money laundering, and bribes were exposed. He possessed comprehensive evidence. Subsequently, an incident occurred, a car crash on a rainy night. The brakes had been tampered with. There were no witnesses. Vivian was 13 years old, observing her mother, who worked as a Carlyle maid, fall apart when she was dismissed. Sorrow consumed her mom a year later, leaving Vivian an orphan, her family broken by the Carlyles' actions. She made a vow then in that bleak orphanage to expose them, not through outbursts but through quiet determination. There was further injustice. The Carlyles enjoyed their public relations displays, taking in Mia, a 6-year-old orphan, and showcasing her at events as a symbol of their generosity. "Our angel," Victoria said to the press, all manufactured tears and staged photographs. The team was unaware that Mia was Vivian's niece, the daughter of her sister, Lily, who had also been employed by them. Lily had died unexpectedly, a fall down the mansion stairs. There was no formal inquiry. Vivian accepted the position of maid with a single purpose: to remain nearby, to protect Mia from those responsible for her mother's death. Each task, from cleaning shelves to serving drinks, brought her closer to fulfilling that commitment. Time passed, and the atmosphere grew strained. Richard finalized the Novalink documentation, his expression conveying satisfaction. Vivian continued with her customary tasks, cleaning, assisting, and observing. Then Victoria spotted her close to Mia's room, her expression wary. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "You're dismissed. Leave immediately." Victoria attempted to seize her phone, initiating a call to security. "Have her removed now." 2 guards entered the room, but rather than apprehending Vivian, they paused, their heads lowered. "We await your command, ma'am," one stated, his voice resolute. Victoria's hand halted in mid-motion, her complexion paling. Vivian had systematically substituted each guard over several months. After 6 years of meticulous preparation, her strategy was nearing completion. The following evening, the Carlyles held a press gala, with cameras flashing and reporters eagerly discussing the event, creating a setting for their anticipated triumph. Richard addressed the audience. "Our family's legacy is unparalleled. Business, charity, leadership." The crowd responded with applause and smiles. Suddenly, the screens began to flicker. A woman stepped forward. Vivian, wearing a simple gray dress and with no makeup or special introduction. She connected a drive to the projector, and the room fell silent. Documents appeared on the screen. Evidence of tax fraud, fabricated charities, and records of bribes emerged. Years of revelations about Carlyle surfaced. It was undeniable. Speaking with a steady, unwavering voice, she declared, "I was the daughter of Charles Lancaster, the man you had killed. You took my family, my home, my sister." She explained her previous silence, stating, "Because sometimes Silence is the loudest scream. The displays showed Charles and Gwen's past articles. Headlines detailed Carlyle's corruption, his handwriting appearing in the margins, providing proof of his involvement in covering up their wrongdoing. A wave of gasps rippled through the audience, quickly turning into shouts as Vivian's voice resonated, identifying him as her father. Richard's hand holding his cigar trembled, the dark history of his empire exposed, every concealed payment surfacing as specters threatening to overwhelm him. Victoria's luxurious silk robe appeared diminished as she watched. The maid she'd soaked was revealed to be the daughter of one of their victims, her presence a reflection they were powerless to destroy. Brooke's image of Vivian's wet uniform briefly filled her thoughts. A shocking revelation now turned against them, the truth a sudden and impactful disclosure that left them stunned. The onlookers gasped, cameras clicking. Richard's cigar dropped, Victoria's pearls were gripped tightly, Brooke's smirk vanished. Proof accumulated, offshore accounts, forged signatures, and a hit order from 1998 with Richard's initials. Vivian spoke calmly, without triumph, simply presenting the facts. Her brown eyes met theirs, and the situation quickly descended into disarray. Journalists surged forward, yelling questions. Is this true? Who is she? The Carlyles protested. Lies.
Fabrication.
But the proof was undeniable. 6 years of Vivian's work, each file a devastating piece of evidence. Richard's expression contorted as Vivian's evidence appeared on the screens, his cigar falling as he understood that every dollar he'd pursued was insignificant compared to her vast holdings. He had spent money on a woman who could have financed his existence 100 times over, and now he had lost everything. A photograph of Lily appeared next, Vivian's sister, young and smiling, then a death certificate confirmed an accidental fall, followed by payroll records listing her as their maid, the dates corresponding with Mia's birth. The audience fell silent, then reacted strongly as Vivian indicated Mia, saying, "She's my niece. Your angel was my blood." Victoria's insincere tears from press conferences seemed bitter, her prized child exposed as a falsehood she's previously displayed, now a burden upon her. Brooke's self-satisfied grin from presenting Mia at galas disappeared. She had mocked the aunt while cuddling the niece, and the room's cheers drowned her out. Vivian's truth, a blade, shattered their facade. Victoria's pearls snapped in her grip, her sobs choked by the revelation that the maid she demeaned possessed more than her dreams. Her dynasty crumbled under Vivian's quiet hand. Brooke's heels wobbled as she stared, her smirk a distant memory. Nova Link's billions rendered her $500 million a child's game, and the press swarmed. Her downfall played out for the world to see. Their greed had blinded them, and Vivian's justice cut deeper than any blade, their empire dust at her feet. Then came the surprising development. Nova Link is pulling out, Vivian said matter-of-factly. Oh, and I own it. Every cent. Nova Link's logo flashed prominently, a corporate powerhouse Vivian had created, its billions displayed in real time, overshadowing the Carlyles' modest fortune as the press announced. She owns it all. Richard's $500 million deal disintegrated into nothing. He had pleaded with someone he had previously ridiculed, his cigar a prop in a performance she had crafted. Victoria's shriek cut through the air. "That's impossible," she exclaimed. But the figures were undeniable. Her maid's assets resembled a vast wave eroding their inheritance. Brooke's heels clicked as she retreated, her aspirations for the boardroom a dream against Vivian's actuality, the audience's applause a tribute to her unspoken authority, their ruin a melody they were powerless to silence. Richard's jaw fell.
Victoria gasped.
Brooke's eyes widened as if struck. Vivian's substantial wealth, amounting to billions, a truly immense fortune, made their $500 million deal seem insignificant. The room felt unstable. Their empire appeared to be crumbling. Police lights flashed outside within hours, assets were frozen, and warrants were issued. The guards advanced, their uniforms sharp, their expressions impassive. Vivian's network, cultivated over years, now positioned itself around her as the screens displayed security logs revealing their identities, exposing her 6-year strategic plan. Richard shouted, "You work for me." But they remained unmoved, one quietly saying, "Not anymore, sir." The feeling of betrayal felt like a knife twisting inside him. Victoria's suggestion to dismiss Vivian seemed like a cruel jest now. She had entrusted her position to a woman who had already established a claim. Brooke's outburst, "She's nothing," faded as the crowd voiced Vivian's name, her quiet ascent to power a triumph they could not seize, their authority diminished by the servant they had attempted to suppress. Richard shouted into a phone, "Correct this," but his legal team was already arranging their departure. Victoria wept, "We are destroyed." Brooke attempted to leave unnoticed, but reporters prevented her, her heels now ineffective. The guards, Vivian's guards, maintained their positions, devoted to her, not to them. Mia ran to Vivian, embracing her leg, and Vivian crouched down, whispering, "You are safe now." The Carlyles were unaware that Mia was Lily's daughter, unaware that Vivian had outmaneuvered them all. The consequences arrived quickly. Inquiries swept through Carlyle assets, revealing tax evasion, fraud, and connections to murder. Richard was arrested. Victoria relinquished her philanthropic endeavors. Brooke's reputation as a socialite disintegrated. Their estate plunged into darkness, gates secured, a lasting symbol of avarice. Vivian didn't accept a single dollar. She presented the proof, departed without stain. She upheld her sister's pledge, shield Mia, reveal the corruption. No acclaim, no dominion, solely justice, serene and stark. Several weeks elapsed. Vivian stood on a rural highway, Mia holding her hand. No expansive residence, no protectors, just a modest garment and a child mirroring Lily's expression. They headed towards a modest dwelling, unassuming and tranquil, hers. Vivian's victory required no fanfare. She had overcome them through perseverance, kindness, and a keen intellect surpassing their strength. As the sun descended, Mia released a joyful laugh, finally liberated. Often, those who appear reserved can dismantle even the most powerful structures. If this narrative resonated with you, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing for more content.